All right, good morning, everyone. Andrew Zimmerman here at the National Weather Service, Wakefield, Virginia. I'm one of the lead meteorologists here. Good, do see, looks like I got the audio straightened out there, so thanks for the comments there. As I was expecting, there'd be a pretty large crowd here this morning with a upcoming winter storm, and still sort of some uncertainty about how these actual details are going to work out. Starting out here, just kind of looking at get a quick overview of the weather to start here, looking at the visible satellite image. We got it pretty much clear, sunny sky out there. You can see the visible satellite image still showing areas that have like the kind of the sleet, snow, ice that's still on the ground, been persistent, and it really hasn't went away with the cold temperatures we've had going on. We've got temperatures this morning really kind of struggling to warm up here. Refresh my page here, but generally temperatures right now just kind of really holding in the 20s here at 11 a.m. this morning. I did see, just pausing here a moment, I do see a couple comments in here that I've got good audio and video, and I also heard a comment about not hearing audio. So please let me know either way. I'm going to keep going forward here since I think everything's working well, but just please let me know either way if you're not hearing me or if you are hearing me. Okay, I see some comments in the affirmative now, so thank you very much. Moving on here, looking at this is a water vapor satellite imagery, and what this is good at is showing jet stream patterns and seeing some of the energy. We've got a pretty powerful cold northern stream of the jet here, and we're really, over the next coming days, we're going to see a pretty strong upper level system is going to dive southeast through the upper Midwest and down, really kind of digging southeast toward the southern mid-Atlantic and Carolinas, and it's going to interact with this southern jet here that kind of extends from northern Mexico across Texas into the deep south. So we're going to get this powerful upper system dive through, interacts with the southern branch, and we're expecting powerful low pressure to develop offshore and then gradually kind of lift northeast. Some of the questions that still remain are how exactly these two jets interact. Some of the latest indications are more so that we maybe get a little bit of light snow as an upper level system comes in, and then there could be a bit of a gap before the coastal system gets going. But we'll kind of look at that a little more as we move forward here. But kind of looking at our main points, really pretty good confidence of this storm developing, and with that, pretty good confidence on the wind. So we do have a storm watch out for our marine area. Still some questions on overall snow amounts, but we did have enough confidence to go ahead with a winter storm watch early this morning. Our overnight shift sent that out. This could produce strong to damaging winds right along the immediate coast. And if that's combined with heavy snow, could lead to blizzard conditions. Actually looking like we will have some tidal flooding as we get into Saturday night into Sunday, especially those areas across the lower Chesapeake Bay and maybe even the Atlantic, some on the Atlantic coastal side, kind of south of Cape Henry down into North Carolina. And then again, looking at the marine, in addition to the storm watch, do have some small craft advisory conditions here initially, and then freezing spray will continue to be a concern with the cold temperatures we have. Overview here of the weather charts. Initially, we got high pressure, and then we see the low developing off the coast Saturday, and then winding up as it pulls away Sunday, and then looks like high pressure building in by Monday. Kind of briefly touching on next week, it looks like maybe there's a bit of a moderation in temperatures, but still below normal. So just not as below normal as we're seeing here the close of the week into next weekend. There's the aerial coverage of our winter storm watch, generally kind of south of a line there, looking at the Farmville region toward the Richmond metro, across the northern neck into far southeast Maryland and south. Highest confidence right now is going to be more southern Virginia, southeast Virginia, and down into northeast North Carolina. Could be a sharp cutoff in snow amounts farther to the north, as it be some interaction with drier air. Current forecast snow amounts, this was from the overnight. Again, like I mentioned, highest confidence, higher amounts, primarily southern Virginia, southeast Virginia, northeast North Carolina. Best chance of blizzard conditions is really kind of right along the immediate coast. So you're looking at, Virginia Eastern Shore, Southside Hampton Roads, portions of northeast North Carolina, especially east of the Chuan River over toward the coast. That's where, you have wind gusts 50 to 60 miles per hour, resulting in blowing snow, reduced visibility. And it is important to remember that when you're talking about blizzard conditions, it's not so much the amount of snow, it's the strength of the wind and the amount of blowing snow that reduces visibility. And I did see a question there pop up in the chat about timing. There is touch on timing a little bit. There is still some uncertainty with the upper level system. There is a chance we could see some light snow developing later Friday afternoon into Friday night, and this would be primarily from the Richmond metro west out into the Piedmont, down especially Farmville area down to South Hill. That's where we could see some light snow develop potentially later Friday afternoon and Friday night, and given the cold temperatures, that would accumulate immediately. Once we get into the coastal system, we're looking at that snow more Saturday night into early Sunday. So a little bit of timing differences there, and that comes from the difference from what we're seeing with the upper level system to then with the coastal system. Percent chance of 4 or more inches of snow. Again, this is from the overnight model cycle. Again, like I mentioned, best cutoff for, where there could be a pretty sharp cutoff is on the northern end. So pretty good confidence farther south. And then we step up to 8 or 12 inches. Again, you see it. Again, it's better south, and that sharper cutoff sort of from central Virginia over to the eastern shore. I did see, looking at some of the initial 12Z, or I was just 12. I say 12Z, but that's the morning, kind of the day model cycle. That would be that. Some of that showed a slight trend to the south. That could be a broader trend, or it could just be one cycle. Important still even at this time range, it's really important not to look at any individual model run. You might see something shared out there that shows one individual model showing no snow and then another one showing a whole bunch. So try to avoid those. even at this time range, roughly 48 hours here from Saturday morning, don't try to get focused on any of the individual model runs. Snow character, this will be a dry snow. This will be a dry, powdery snow. Little unlike we typically see. Every once in a while we do see dry, powdery snows, but this will be a dry, powdery snow. Much different situation than we dealt with last weekend. And I think at this point, I'll kind of jump out of the briefing here, just kind of look at some additional. This is basically all the model and ensemble guidance. The ensembles being slight variations. This is kind of blending that all together. This is your median snowfall amount, again from the overnight cycle. You see the trend. less to the north, increasing gradient to the south. If we look at from a statistical term, the 25th percentile, now you can this would be kind of the lower end. Now you definitely do see that potential sharper cutoff to the north, but still see decent snow amounts to the south. And then kind of your higher end reasonable potential. Now you're kind of seeing your 8 to close to 12-inch amounts, southern, southeast Virginia, northeast North Carolina. And then if kind of the higher end, you could see some of these higher amounts kind of nudge up into central Virginia and maybe even into southeast Maryland as well. And that's basically if the storm's a little farther north, if the moisture fills in a little better between the upper level system and the coastal system. Kind of switching back here to some of our more briefing slides, kind of to concentrate here on the wind gust. You can see the strongest right along the coast, where particularly Virginia Eastern Shore, Southside Hampton Roads, and into coastal northeast North Carolina could see some wind gusts 50 to 60 miles per hour. That's looking like Saturday night into Sunday morning. So definitely prepare for strong wind gusts, especially right along the immediate coast. There's some rough timing, kind of to reemphasize the timing here. You can kind of see the main window Saturday afternoon into Sunday morning, but you do see some of these chances here Friday afternoon, evening, especially Emporia, Farmville, Goochland, Louisa, Petersburg, Richmond, South Hills, so kind of that 95 corridor and west. We'll still be dealing with cold wind chills, look to be coldest as we get into Saturday night, early Sunday, but Saturday's looking like a cold day as well. High temperatures only in the 20s. Couldn't rule out a few locations only seeing temperatures, and this is ambient temperature, not wind chill, remaining in the upper teens. There's our wind chills Saturday night, early Sunday morning, looking like a lot of the area sees wind chills below zero with that cold air mass coming in, combined with some wind. Again, as I mentioned, kind of maybe a slight moderating trend as we get into next week, but still, that would still be generally below normal, and we would still see overnight lows below freezing. Tidal flooding potential at this point, greatest threat, like the Chesapeake Bay side of the Virginia Eastern Shore, Northampton County, maybe a little bit around some on the ocean side, and then kind of down toward Lynn Haven Inlet, down through the south of Cape Henry along the Atlantic coast. That's kind of your greatest risk area. Could still see some moderate flooding though back into the toward the peninsula there and back along the James River, including Sewell's Point. So, and that'll be somewhat dependent on the wind direction, whether it's a little east of due north or a little west of due north. A little east of due north will be more impactful for areas back in toward the James River. As you can see here, our initial forecasts do have like Lynn Haven, Kifta Peak right around major flood, and then close to moderate flood for Sewell's Point. These are just kind of the initial forecasts in there to At this case, that's a good question there. At this case, or at this time frame, with the wind direction looking a little more slightly west of due north, that would generally keep us below major flooding at Sewell's Point. So if we can keep that same type of wind direction, looks like we should stay short of the 6.5 at Sewell's Point. But some of those details we'll get a better idea on some of those details over the next day or two. There's our storm watch, includes most of our marine area, just aside from the upper rivers, but that's still in a gale watch. So still looking at very strong wind even over the upper rivers. And then most of the marine area in the storm watch looks like means potential sustained winds up around 45 knots with gusts to nearly 60 knots. So, and then very rough seas as well. Primary timing for the wind is Primary timing for the wind is Saturday afternoon into Sunday night. Okay, marine, there again, you can kind of see your main marine threat Saturday to Sunday. I will pause here, catch up on a couple questions that are coming in. Right now, it's going to be that, let me step back here. It's a little tricky since we're, and I'll address your question here. Little tricky since we're just kind of at the end. I mean, the end of the end of our kind of official forecast here. But it primarily does look like it's going to be that one tide cycle there is early, very rare. I would guess term it early Sunday morning. That's probably at this point going to be our most problematic tide cycle with this storm kind of pulling offshore as we get into Sunday night and Monday, and seeing the wind eventually come around more to northwesterly, maybe westerly. That should primarily limit this to one really problematic high tide cycle. And I will just kind of wrap up the marine stuff, and then I'm going to circle back to the snowfall question there. I mean, we kind of covered this. I'll move through pretty quickly here, but again, you can see the main time window there is Saturday afternoon through Sunday, potentially into Sunday evening as well. But the strongest wind is going to be late Saturday night, early Sunday. As far as blowout tides go, at this point, lower Chesapeake Bay area, not necessarily looking at blowout tide issue. As we move farther up, more middle Chesapeake Bay, there could be some blowout tide up there. As we see, and that could actually be more so when the highest tides are down the lower Chesapeake Bay. But as far as lower Chesapeake Bay itself, at this point, not necessarily over strong concerns about the blowout tide, and that will have to do with, we see the wind go around the northwest, eventually westerly, but it does diminish. That should help reduce the blowout tide, at least in the lower Chesapeake Bay. Now, there will be some areas, kind of Back Bay, Currituck Sound, those areas will kind of have to watch for some blowout tide down that way as well. But freezing spray, I mentioned, certainly something for the marine interest we're going to continue to deal with as the storm evolves and the cold weather remains. Just a bit of housekeeping here. We will continue to update our email briefings, and we'll be back here tomorrow at 11 a.m. But I do want to circle back here to the snow question about increases in snow amounts. There is still some uncertainty with that. The latest trends have been for a touch farther south, which would mean a little bit less snow, maybe when you're looking at like central Virginia over to southeast Maryland, but not necessarily for southern southeast Virginia, northeast North Carolina. But again, just as I mentioned earlier, I kind of will emphasize that I mean, we will still see some variations in snowfall amounts as we go through tonight and tomorrow. I mean, that's just common what you're going to see. That's just common stuff you'll see with some model guidance, and that's again why we're kind of focusing on more of a probabilistic look at it, or kind of looking at statistical ranges. So I think with that, I will end the main part of the briefing, and I will hang on here as if there are any more questions, or if you would like me to clarify anything. But I thank you for all your attendance, and thank you for your time this morning.